Well, my name's Eric Tarkelson. Hope you guys can see me there. I'm trying to figure out how to do a PowerPoint presentation and also teach you a little bit about the chapter that I was asked to read in Nurture Shock in Dr. Egbert's class of 204 Education. I was assigned Chapter 8, and it was titled Self-Control. Self-control. Can self-control be taught? In this chapter, they talk about different programs, some well-meaning programs that have been initiated in different classrooms around the United States. And one main one they talked about was the DARE program. So then they also talk about another program called the Tools of the Mind curriculum. So that's what we're going to be talking about, and hopefully we can learn a little bit about it. The DARE program was developed in Los Angeles in 1983, and it was a program where uniformed officers would come into the classroom and they would do role-playing, as well as different lectures. They would play videos on real-life events of drinking and driving, and so they'd also do a bunch of readings and trying to get the kids involved. And 80% of the school districts around the United States were participating in it, and the teachers, 97% of the teachers in the program felt that it was effective, and also 93% of the parents thought that it was effective. And it was super supported by the United States government in its funding, trying to help teach kids about drinking and driving. So we can move on, and once they initiated the program, they decided to do some studies on its effectiveness in the classroom between the years of 1990 and 2000. And they did this study among classes that were using the program and those that weren't. And what they discovered, that there was, with those that were participating in the DARE program, there was a slight decline in cigarette, alcohol, and drug use. But there was no long-term reduction. And then some other studies that were very interesting was that of 718 cases, only 41 of those 718 were effective. And among people, different scholars, with interventions such as the DARE program, they question whether or not that 15% is effective. Is that effective enough in such a program, whereas 85% of those kids were never affected by it? And so the question has always been, is 15% good enough? Have we reached out to enough students that we feel this is a program that should continue and that we should continue spending money on it? Or are there more effective programs? So let's take a look at some other options here. A program that was developed in the 1990s by two professors, Dr. Elena Bedrova and Dr. Deborah Leong. They study and teach at the Metropolitan State College of Denver, and they created a program called the Tools of the Mind. And when they first started it, they piloted a small program with just a few pre-kindergarten classes and some Head Start programs. And they found success there. And then in 1997, the Denver public school system decided to maybe kind of pilot a small program. And so what they did is they took 10 teachers, 5 of which used the Tools of the Mind program, and then 5 that did not. And in these classrooms, a third to half of the students were poor Hispanic young ones that had very limited English abilities, and they all started at a grade level below their age. So some kids that were maybe struggling or a little more difficult to keep up with the normal program. And so the results of the tool curriculum at the end of the year came that all the students came out a grade level above or ahead of where the other students who did not take the Tools of the Mind program. And as a district, only a half of the kindergarten scored as proficient, and 97% of them were tool students. So we can see that this is a really good program and definitely a success. So after the program started in Denver school districts, other schools around the country began to use it, and one was in New Jersey. And the first year, it was a 2-year program, and they had 7 out of 18 classrooms use this tool program. And it became such a success the first year that the second year the principal felt like it would be damaging to the other students who weren't a part of it to not be a part of it, so he implemented it immediately after the first year for every one of his classrooms, or her classrooms. And they also discovered that there's less behavioral problems with the students, and because it was such a success, that they lost their at-risk funding from the government for their at-risk program. So definitely a success. So kind of how this program, or just one aspect of what they do, because there's many, and kind of with the length of our video here, I'm going to break it down to one thing that they do. They have a program called Role Play, and they'll come up with different scenarios, but the one they talked about in the book was their classroom would be set up, would be divided up into maybe 4 or 5 different areas, and they would have a role play of a home burning down. So in one corner they would have the home that would be burning down. They would have the fire station and what the firemen would do at the fire station. They'd have another area where the 911 operator would be at, and the role that would go on there. So they'd break up this classroom, and what they would do is they'd assign students to be a part of each one of those areas. And with that, they are assigned to design their costumes and make up their costumes for it. And so they would be able to learn abstract learning from using their just inventive ideas that they'd have in their head. They'd also have to write out their script at whatever level that they could write, as well as draw pictures of what they're going to do, and they would have to have enough ideas planned ahead and written out to take up a 45-minute role play period. And with that, the teachers would facilitate the role play, keep them on track, and also once they got done, then they would all switch positions or different role plays, and then they'd have to write up a script for the other areas of this fire station scenario. So yeah, it gets them involved, gets them participating, and helps keep them on task. And then at the end of it, the teachers have taught them that when it's time to clean up, they'll play some music. As soon as the music comes on, the kids know that music tells them they need to be cleaning up. So it's kind of a neat little program that helps them. But why it works, some of the key items that I picked out of why it works is that it's a written play plans, and the role play mainly is what allows this to work. It sustains interest, which is a core building block. Also, students are consumed in activities and they won't be distracted. Kids' brains need a break and time to blow off energy, so this kind of activity, active activity like this, allows that to happen. And students learn abstract thinking, and an example was that the chairs become fire engines. A broomstick can become a fire hose, so it allows them to think outside the box. And Tools also encourages the voice in the head. It helps them deal with that little voice in their head as well. And in Tools, the students aren't merely behaved, but self-behaved and self-directed. So that's the Tools program. And if you'd like to, I'll move my phone here a little closer. And this here is the website. The glare of the TV isn't so bad, but that's where you can go and learn more, because there's lots to be learned in the Tools program. It's pretty interesting. So take a look at it, and thank you very much.